What's up, YouTube? It is your boy JB, and we're here today with the review for Sistas on BET. This is season 4, episode 6, you guys, and the episode was titled Hard to Get. Alright, you guys, so before we jump into this review, if you guys are watching this video or any other on my channel and you guys are not subscribed to the channel, I need you guys to do me a solid favor and stop taking me out on this date and having me pay for it at the end of it. You guys can do me that favor by liking the video, subscribe to the channel, turning your notifications on, and sharing the video. And you guys, with that out the way, without further ado, let's discuss Sistas, shall we? Alright, you guys, so this episode we picked up where we left off, and you guys remember in the last episode that Karen was telling Aaron that I'm pregnant, right? So he says, okay. She says, is that all you gotta say? He says, I'm just thinking. She says, what are you thinking? He says, I'm just, just doing the timeline, because he asked her how far along was she, right? She says she hasn't been to the doctor, so she doesn't necessarily know. So at this point, Karen, you don't necessarily know that you're pregnant, because, pregnancy tests can give you a false positive or a false negative. Just saying, right? So, she's saying it's too early, right? It's too early, and this is Zach's baby. And Aaron was like, really? So Aaron has the same questions that we all have, right? Aaron has the same questions. Girl, do you know that this is probably, there's a possibility that this could be Aaron's baby, but hey, whatever, right? So Aaron feels that this might be a way for her to hold on to Zach, and I'm like, even the man that wants to be with you thinks that this is a trick, well, not a trick, but this is a tactic for you to hold on to Zach. And she tells him, no, that's not what this is. And I think I should just be alone. I should just be single. And I think you should just leave me alone. Aaron, I called it before, you guys. I told you guys that Aaron was going to be the type of person that he'll be in her life and in his child's life, and he'll love both of them, right? So then we move over to back into the front of the salon, right, where Preston is. So Preston is talking to Pam. Pam is all up in his business and whatnot. But I'm not a nosy. He says, well, you're acting like. She said, did you just call me up? He said, you called yourself one, right? So she's talking about the fact that, if you want her to call Danny, don't do that. And he says, it's not what I wanted. We'll talk about that in just a minute, right? She says, well, you know that her and Karen are, really good friends, right? So then Karen and Aaron, they come out of her broom closet, and Karen comes over to Preston. We find out Preston did want for Karen to call Danny up. I'm like, oh, so you were trying to make her jealous. Okay, so I see last week I was trying to defend you, but so you were, that is what you were doing. Gotcha, right? But Karen says, I didn't call her, so yeah. And she said, so what do you want me to call her for us to, make her jealous? He says, no. He wanted Danny to see that he can move on. Have you really moved on if you're wanting one of her best friends to call her, to have her come down? Have you really moved on, Preston? The answer to that question is no. So we're going to move on, you guys. All right, you guys, next up we see Andy. So Andy, she is at work, and, she got her feet on the desk with that bag, and Fatima comes up, she's like, ooh, this bag. Girl, you bought this? She's like, no, I didn't buy that bag. She says, Robin got it. She says, guess again. She says, Gary. Yep, she says Gary. So, yep, Gary is the one that bought it, right? So, she then, Andy shows her, he bought me this too. She says, girl, is that a Rolls Royce? She said, yes, and it's in my name. So then, they talk about Karen. Because, Karen was talking about, she said, Fatima said we can sell this, we can sell that, right? She says, Karen said the same thing. Speaking of Karen called Zach's phone today, and I answered it. She's like, what? She's like, yeah, Zach left his phone, and I picked his phone. Zach and I switched phones accidentally. And Andy was like, Zachariah. Which one is his name? Zachary. I'm pretty sure it's Zach. It is Zachary. But Zachary. So Zach left. She says, the Zach that I know sleeps with his phone under the pillow. Basically, that phone is glued to him. She says, not with me, it's not. She said, he even gave me his password. She said, he gave you his password. She said, yes. She said, did you give him yours? She says, girl, I gave him a fake one. She says, that's my girl, right on, right? So then we move over to Gary. So Gary is at, not Gary, Zach is at his house, right? But Gary shows up with that guy, Jake. And I keep looking at this house, right? Remember, when we first saw this house, it was nothing. It was basically nothing in that house, but now this house is just coming to life as we speak in a matter of hours or whatever, right? So Zach and Jake, they talk about, the stock, right? Jake tells Zach that the price will go up and that he might want to take a percentage down, like, maybe 25%. So take 1 million out of that, because it's up to 2.7 million, right? And he asks him, like, who did you open up a bank account with? He says Brookhaven. He was like, ooh. He's like, what does that mean? He says, I think you should open up with a brokerage firm. Basically, he's telling him, I think you should open up an account with me and with Gary. Would you guys open up an account with Gary? I know, damn sure I wouldn't. Just knowing Gary's history. Wouldn't trust him with a dollar. Really wouldn't. So you guys, let's move over to the airport. So at the airport, we see Fuego. So Fuego walks up to Danny, right? Fuego is trying to have a conversation with Danny, and Danny basically wants Fuego to skedaddle, right? And then Logan walks up, and Logan is talking to Danny. Logan is trying to take Danny out on a date. And I was just like, wow. She told you she would tell you when you guys would go on a date. Can you handle, oh God, it's just, the man on this show, right? So then Preston calls her. And when Preston called her, Preston's talking to her. He's saying, can I talk to you? And she was like, I'm going on a date. He's like, okay, well, are you at home? She says, I'm on my way there now. He says, well, can I come by? I won't come in. And then he says, he tells her, hey, Tanya, I took her back to Karen's salon so that Karen could call you, but Karen didn't call you. She says, yeah, she didn't call. And after they hang up, because she says, okay, I'm going to be there in a few minutes. Come on. You got a few minutes before my date. So then she calls up Karen, right? Karen, she says, thank you for not calling me. Preston called me and told me what happened. Not everything, but he called me, so he wants to come by. And she says, thank you. And they make amends with each other. They talk about going over to Andy's. And, Danny was asking her, so what is this about? She didn't tell her. She says, I'll tell you when we get there, right? So we're going to pause here, you guys, and we're going to move forward. All right, you guys. So next up, we see Andy. Andy's still at work. So Andy calls up Karen. And Karen says, hello. She says, yeah, I'm getting ready to leave work. She says, are we still on? I'm like, you're the one that wanted this to happen. So shouldn't you be asking yourself that question? Now, granted, this is Andy's apartment. I would say, are you still, you still able to have us all come over to your place? But I guess, in a nutshell, that's what she meant, right? So then she says, how about you invite Fatima? Andy says, what? Yeah, invite Fatima. And she's like, I don't think that's a good idea, Karen. She's like, why not, Andy? She's like, you don't like her, and she carries a gun, and you carry a gun, and I don't want no bang, bang, bang in my apartment. So then they hang up, right? So Andy calls Sabrina, then she calls Danny on three-way, right? And she tells them, like, hey, so Karen, you guys remember, guys are still coming over to my place, right? Because, guys know Karen wants to talk to us. They said, yeah. She says, so get this. Karen and I just got off the phone, and Karen wants me to invite Fatima. And they were like, what? Why would she want to do that? And then Danny says, this has got something to do with Zach. 100%, it got something to do with Zach. So then Fatima comes back into Andy's office, and she asks Fatima, does she have any plans for later, right? Fatima says, nope, don't have any plans for later, right? She says, okay, well, if I need you to do some stuff for me, can I call you? She says, yeah, I'll be there, do whatever you need me to do, right? So then we move over to Maurice and Calvin. So Maurice and Calvin, they're at the crib, right? And Maurice is talking to Calvin, and he's asking Calvin, about his date. He's like, I know she already told you. He's like, what are you talking about? And then Maurice started playing along. He said, yeah, she did tell me. See, I knew she told you. So then Maurice was trying to get it out of him. without letting it be known that he doesn't know what the hell Calvin is talking about because Sabrina never told him what happened. So he was talking about the date. He said, at the bar. He says, no, at the table. And then he says, he kissed him. He kissed her. She didn't tell you, did she? Nah, she didn't tell me. But you might as well keep going because you've told me enough. Okay. Yeah. Don't really care about that. Really don't. All right, guys, so next up, we see Danny. So Danny makes it home, which was really interesting. Maybe Danny had already been home, but when we saw Danny, it looked like she had just walked into her apartment and then Preston was there. Like, does she have a back door? Maybe she has a patio. Maybe she has a patio she went through. So I'm gonna let that one slide, right? So Preston, he didn't, he kept his word, right? He didn't have the landlord let him in. He just sat there and waited for Danny, right? Now, he tells her that he didn't enjoy his date with Tanya, right? Because the whole time he was on a date with Tanya, he was thinking about Danny, right? Then Preston says, which we all know this, Preston and Danny ain't got shit in common, right? And it makes it hard for them, and it shouldn't be hard to communicate, right? Even if you don't have anything in common with them, like you don't have commonality, you can, that's why you have conversations with people to see, like maybe on surface, you don't have anything in common, right? But maybe deep down, if you guys get to know each other and have a conversation with each other, you can figure out, hey, you like this? I like that. Wow. You want to do this? I want to do that. Things of that nature, right? But they don't do that. And then the fact that Preston is talking about he thought love would be enough. I was like, huh? It is so weird with this show. Everyone is in love with each other. And they literally kind of just met each other. Cause I'm just hella confused about the love with this show, right? Zach and Fatima, they love each other too soon for me. Aaron and Karen, saying love too soon. Calvin to Sabrina, he loves her way too soon. And Preston and Danny, Preston is saying he loves Danny. These relationships are fairly new. The only people that can say that they love each other, and I understand it, is going to be Gary and Andy and Zach and Karen, because they were in relationships, in the first episode. They were in relationships the first episode, but everyone else has since gotten into and I'm not going to say relationships, situationships, right? Karen and Aaron, they got into a situationship with each other before his wife unlived herself. Zach and Fatima just got into a situationship with chain breakers, right? Sabrina and Calvin got into a situationship when they met at the bank. Danny and Preston just got into a situationship. Shit, I forgot how Danny and Preston met. How did Danny and Preston meet? Was it at the airport? You guys let me know in the comment section, because that one I forgot. I remember how everybody else met except for Danny and Preston. But hey, let's move on, you guys. All right, so we're going to wrap up the episode. So we see Fatima. So Fatima went over to Zach's house. Like I said early in the episode, this house, where did these light fixtures come from? And who put them? I mean, like I said, when we first saw this house, it looked, you could tell it was being renovated. Renovations don't go that quick. Okay, I'm gonna let Tyler have it, right? So Jake is still there, right? So Zach introduces Fatima to Jake. She's like, how did you two meet? He said, remember that basketball game that I went to last night? We met there. Well, technically we didn't meet there. We met through his partner, Gary. She was like, Gary, what's Gary's last name? He says, Borders. Her face said it all. Her face said it all. They had a little conversation. You know, he messed with her about the fact that she didn't give him the right passcode. She asked him who was some woman. He said she works at the bank. It is what it is. So then we move over to Andy. So Andy calls Karen, right? And she tells Karen, "Hey, I'm leaving." So Karen says, "Well, did you invite Fatima?" She says, "I did not invite Fatima." Once again, pow, pow, pow. I think I got ahead of myself earlier, right? But pow, pow, pow. You have a gun, she has a gun, pow, pow, pow. I don't need that shit in my apartment, right? But this has a lot to do with her as well. So I really want you to invite her, Andy. I don't think that's a good idea, says Andy. But I'll call her nonetheless, right? I'll call her. So then we see Andy. So Andy goes home to her apartment, right? And Andy, before she can even get to the door, her phone rings and it's Gary. I was just about to say, how did Gary know she was going home at that time? But I'm pretty positive Gary has a mental note of what time Andy typically leaves her office and how long it takes her when she gets from the office to her apartment. Girl, you don't find it at all creepy? And then when he answered the phone, she was they were talking about the fact that that situation that happened with the car, right? How did you know that I was in the car? He had somebody following her. And then, he was talking about, "I know how you are, Andy. You like surprises." She was like, at first she tried to play it off, but then she was like, "Yeah, you're right. Andy, that wasn't a surprise." You know what? Andy likes being a bird brain, and I'm just going to let Andy continue to be the bird that she is because what? None of that is romantic. None of that is appealing. Like, what are we doing here? The man is basically stalking you, and the man is trying to control you, but you finding this enjoyable. You love toxicity, don't you? Because this is toxic. This is also the same man who told you that he couldn't get the idea of you sleeping with another man out of his head. And he wouldn't have sex with you. But you find all of this shit attractive and appealing. Am I missing something, you guys? Am I missing something? Because I just don't understand what the hell is going on here. Do you guys? I don't. But hey, it is what it is. She's a bird. She likes it. She enjoys it. You should run. You should run. So Andy hangs up the phone. She says someone else is calling her, right? So then she goes into her apartment, open up her apartment door, and she walks in and she's like, well, what the hell? There's nothing in her apartment. Her apartment is empty. Now we do see in next week's episode that I guess he bought a penthouse and he moved herself to the penthouse. Yeah, once again, what did I just say a few minutes ago? Creepy as fuck. Like, you're not creeped out by this. I wouldn't stay in that place. I would tell him, you need to move my shit back to my apartment. Like, no. Like, do you have a key here? But I mean, he already has a key to her. He has a key to her apartment now. Girl, change your locks. Get a dog. Get a gun. Get something to protect yourself because Gary is controlling. And I just don't understand how she finds this appealing, attractive, or turn on. It's scary as hell. But it's Andy. And what did I just call her a few minutes ago? A bird. A bird. But hey, that's it, you guys. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode. The episode was, to me, meh. It wasn't a good episode, but it wasn't a bad episode either. Actually, you know what? It was a decent episode because I didn't have to deal with the back and forth of Calvin and Sabrina. Anytime I don't have to deal with they back and forth, that is a good episode to me. It wasn't the best, but it was okay, especially not having to deal with Calvin and Sabrina. And thank you, Tyler, for that small ass scene with Calvin. I appreciate it. Can we get more of those? That would be perfect. But that's it, you guys. Let me know what you guys thought about it. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Subscribe to the channel. Turn your notifications on so you guys are notified when I drop anything else. Share the video. And until the next one, stay safe, you guys. Take care of yourselves. Remember, wash your hands, you guys. Wear a mask, socially distance, be blessed. And I'll see you guys in the next one.